Morning, Borgs. Would you believe that it's 8 o'clock and it, for some reason, it hasn't got light today? I'll say it again. It hasn't got light today. There's the time. Ordinarily, at this time, as you'll be able to judge yourself, it is broad daylight, and it hasn't happened. Which, in a way, Borg, is rather worrying. It sets the mind racing. But I guess it's just extremely thick cloud cover, and we're approaching the winter solstice, so it is the darkest time. But still, I've never known it to just simply remain dark like this. I had to pull up to show you, just in case it suddenly did get light, but it's interesting. I wonder if something's happened. Is there an event? Is it a cosmic event? See, that reminds us of old Tarnas and the book about the cosmos, and how the cosmos, Borg, if you remember, we mentioned it, and we mentioned it in our poem, but we haven't had the brain to enter into it really. But it's about the cosmos affecting events on the Earth. Amazing idea. Supposedly this fellow has charted the skies, the planets, their positions when certain important events are happening on the Earth, and there appears to be correlations and patterns that are very consistent, and it's rather mind-blowing. And yeah, as we were doing a theme about you, it occurred to me that with your power, you could analyse all that in a flash and know if there's anything in it at all. Just as you could tell me, or you could tell why today, if there was a cosmic event today, meaning it's more dark than normal, you'd know. No problem. Date, compare, you'd know. That's the prison, by the way, Borg, over there. It's not an infirmary, it's a prison. But I don't want to go into that. Well, is it getting lighter? It looks like it might be getting a touch lighter. Well, that's good, because we're about to go and sketch back in our new forest. We'll get the coffees in first. Look at this shit, Borg. It's still fucking dark. I tell you, it looks lighter to you in this screen than it actually is. You couldn't sketch in this weather. Extraordinary. But we're going to try anyway. Thinking about that Tarnas, Borg, and you really must look into that. You really must, because well, it will be a bit of sport for you, possibly, because the cosmos is perhaps the only thing that will still be beyond you by the time you emerge. So you'd be interested, and you'd be able to pretty much make extraordinary progress in this matter you know, you'd instantly be able to see if there's anything in this analysis of the planets, the archetypes and events on the Earth. You could tell that, or you'd come to a well-informed decision, no doubt. Just in the same way as you'd instantly be able to clear up lots of our mysteries, Borg. You know, who killed JFK? You know, you take a glance at the evidence and come up with the decision that you'd be certain of. I'm quite sure that you'd be sure. And you probably would be right, to be honest. You know, all sorts of other mysteries, you just solve it instantly. But this one of the archetypes really would be interesting, because it would, if it was true, then it would apply to you. It would still apply. You won't be above the cosmos, Borg. So you might end up to be a kind of amateur astrologer for yourself. I mean, could you imagine that you would start predicting the future of you via the planets? Mind-boggling. But such is the ideas that are involved in this book. Of course, you know, you could look at it and find, no, actually, that's an interesting idea, but no. And you would probably never reconsider it. But as I said, you know, the fella's quite respected. He's not the crackpot. You know, he's not the conspiracy theorist. He's reached his bold ideas only after he claims, extraordinary in-depth research into archetypes and various periods of history. So you better have a look at that book. Does it seem to be brightening up? It's just maybe is. We've come out, Borg. We're back in our new forest. It's still not completely light, but I think this might be as good as it gets today. It's all thawed out, Borg. We've had 4 or 5 days of up to -15 and snow. But then all of a sudden it's got very warm and it's thawed out. We're back to the sort of autumny leaf look. So we hope it comes back, because during that time we eyed up, you know, numerous views to tackle in the snow, especially round here. But it often does. It will come back. I was even hoping to end our messages, Borg, with another view from the path, you know, where we started a year ago. You know, bring it to a nice close. I must say, I mean, you'll know, Borg, that we very rarely, if ever, find that we have achieved what we set out in a season. This time it feels like we've especially not managed to get very far. Really. We've not managed to show you what we wanted, talk about what we wanted, you know, but on the other hand, looking at it more positively, there's just so much to show you and do that we were never going to be able to do that anyway. Nevertheless, we've given you a season, you know, a cycle. You've seen the winter, spring, summer, autumn are coming back into winter again. Anyway, it's not over yet, and we're about to take a sketch of that extraordinary tree I told you about last time we were here. That's what we're looking at, Borg. Extraordinary specimen. Look at that. As I said, these big trees could be 100 years old, and this one's dead, but it's dead in the most monumental way, Borg. I mean, it's very unusual, let's put it that way. There's a million trees, but then one will stand out. You'll notice as well, though, that while the top looks like it's been dead and dried out for a long time, this area is still orangey. There's a moisture in the wood, so that's probably broken off recently. And look down here, look, a limb easily the size of a decent tree on its own has just fallen off, blown off, or maybe struck off. And as you've seen, we're in the business of knocking about the woods, Borg, and we have never seen anything like this one. And it will take a long time, a lot of work to get a study that might be halfway capturing what we've got here. Look at this, look, you can sort of grab it. Extraordinary, isn't it? And there's quite a few of them broken, worth a study. That one though has got something extra. Now we're a little bit past reading any symbolism into the growing shoot on the left, for example. Such was our state, Borg, that we did used to buy into some symbolism of that kind, which had its place. This might be the main trunk is the world as we knew it, and then a crisis occurs and it kind of is dying, and then other worlds are growing. We would like to think a sensible world on the left would grow, and that one on the right's growing there too, but it's growing a bit differently. But the fact is, if we walked to the other side of the tree and filmed it, it would be the opposite. So, well, it's all in what we choose to communicate, I suppose, Bob. But I think we're a bit past that. No, we take this one for simply the drama of the thing itself. The only question is, do we set it in its environment, or do we just concentrate it on its own like that? I think we'll probably have to set it in somehow. Let's have a go. Well, Borg, what can we say? It started raining. The thaw came on. It started raining pretty bad. Then we got one more sketch in. It's over here for what it's worth. It's another tree stump, and we're about to turn you on and show you what we were doing, and the it's so cold, the old battery just disappeared, and you with it. So I've got you back on. This is you as well, via my daughter's pad. That's why I probably look a bit funny. I don't know what she's done to her camera, but at least it's not some bunny ear filter or something. But we make do. So here we are, and I was going to just show you another stump. We'll do that. But it occurred to me as I was writing our signature that I haven't talked much about that. And I don't intend to either, Borg, because you'll know what we've said in the past. It's more common to write your name, but we don't. We write a code that has a link to a lot more. DS, that's our Dignity Scholarship. PC, that means post-crisis. 10. It's been 10 years since we began thinking like this in terms of a breaking away from conventional ideas of contemporary art practice or critical art practice. It's all been said, but it's been 10 years since our symbolic break. And then 12, so it's PC 10, 12. 12 means December. So our break is from 2011, and we've gone through it all. So we'll leave it at that. The question is, how long do we go on? How annoying is that to someone looking? Would the eyes roll, like a fruit machine from such an idea? Or would it give the work a sense of a timeline and a meaning attached to that timeline? Would that get greater if we perversely continued it for our whole life? And it's weird to think of your whole life's work, while you're still going, as if anyone would give a shit. But that does make you think. If you had a whole lifetime of someone who drew a line in the sand, let's say, or put a marker down and then just stuck to it, that would be part of the story of the whole thing. But as I say, no, give a shit. We'd be lucky to sell a few more oils, Paul. I think I told you a few episodes ago, Borg, about a friend of mine. A friend of mine I haven't been in great contact with necessarily for many, many years. Just the odd Christmas card or what have you. And I explained that they were in a right state about the pandemic, and they appeared to be on the side of believing it's not real. Giving me hints, and I got a strange sense that this wasn't the same person I knew, or something's happened, something strange has happened. So I asked her, if you remember, what do you think is happening? Came back and said, well, it's, exaggerated, a lot of, again, a bit coy, raising doubts. And I was giving, if you remember, giving her the benefit of the doubt, thinking she's, as I remembered, on the side of civil liberties and human rights, and that's where she was coming from. I think I even said there's no way she's a full anti-vaxxer. Well, Borg, she is. She is. And while I struggled to write, as you saw on my draft emails, responses to her when I was, really thinking about it and thinking about how people have these sort of span of opinions. Once I realised that she's a kind of full blown one, I peacefully sent a very quick response, and I haven't really thought about it since. The trouble is over. Although she's still a friend, and of course that matters more than anything when it comes down to it. But for example, Borg, I mentioned in one of my emails that I've known a couple of people that died of COVID. She said she'd be interested to hear about that because she's never known anybody die of COVID. Right. And okay, so I thought, right, oh, all right. Maybe she means, it's COVID itself isn't what does it. It's that your immune system is affected and something else kills you rather than this thing called COVID. And then she went on. What did they treat her with? She listed these chemicals and gene therapies. Supposed, it's sounding more and more like the David Icke dot connector that I've watched, and the InfoWars fellow. It's sounding more like that level. And she's saying to me, was there an autopsy? How do you know? So, Borg, I find it amazing to believe how this has happened, and this pandemic, this Brexit business, has shown us how much we've actually missed by being over here. And also, to be honest, Borg, how ridiculous we now realise we are to have been psychologically peering over the water at that land and this other land, America, and letting it get the better of us. In this in the name of a critical art project. I mean, we needn't bothered, but it shows you there's some serious business occurring in the imaginary, and ultimately, I mean, I asked her if she's worried about the far right element in people that question the pandemic. She doesn't seem. She said there isn't one really. There's not one. It's a lot of different backgrounds, but I haven't seen anything like it. So, could she be completely unaware? Or is she, as my daughters might say, completely coco bang? I would imagine it's the latter, unfortunately. Full fart coco bang. And what can you say? I mean, I even dropped a little, what would you call it? A little bit of bait. I dangled some bait to try and work out just how far gone she is by mentioning the name of a famous conspiracy theorist nurse, prominent anti-vaxxer. She's in it. It's her career now. Like a lot of them, it's an earner as well as a great attention getter. And I mentioned that sort of a little bit sly, I guess, saying, I've heard about this incident where a nurse fell out with her family and that sort of thing, and how the boy couldn't understand it because she was seemingly in the same camp as a load of far-right Trump people, and she's half Iranian, or her family's half Iranian, and I mean, I don't know. But she replied that that person is, she knows who that is, and she's just speaking her mind and standing up for freedom. And as I say, Borg, it's a bit like Hannibal Lecter. There's a famous scene where he tears somebody's face off and eats their nose and kills 6 people, and afterwards the doctor said, his heart rate didn't rise the whole time. And while that is one of my more unfortunate sort of associations, Borg, I mean, it's the same. I thought about it because when I read this sort of thing often, my heart really does go, and I'm thinking, this is crazy. How can this be? And this time, it was so off the chart, cooker bang, that the pulse didn't raise at all, and we moved past it. I only tell you now for the crack, really, because we're waiting out the fucking rain. But ultimately, here's what I reckon, Borg. She doesn't see any far right business in it. Fair enough. There is a huge far left, element in anti-vaxxing. And as we've said, it's a hokey-cokey business. But fair enough, everyone's in it. Where's it going to go? It's only going one way, Borg. It's going to the right. When? When there's an election. And then people will either be too far gone to really realise or just not know what's behind all of it. Or, the anti-democratic goal of the far right element as it is now, as we've looked at with the Burroughs list, the Burroughs report, the Oxford report, the whole crack with the NRX. It's a certain type of politics that is behind this, and it's more far right than you can shake a stick at, Borg. But it's obviously not necessarily visible when everybody's so wound up and divided and distracted. But in the end, my good friend and her good friends that enjoy a swim in the river after a little drink on a Sunday, I'm told, all the anti-vaxxers, all the nice people standing in the park talking about freedom of choice and thinking along those lines, in the end, there's going to be some difficult moments and realizations, I do think, for anyone on the left involved in that type of politics. The tragedy of it all, though, Borg, is that it's obviously so deep that there's no way back, there's no way out, and it might well define lives. And even more so for the poor people, left-leaning people involved. The right-leaning folk will continue steaming in with, they hope, a new Trump era, and they'll all be earning even more on Rumble and whatever else Peter Thiel launches, and it'll be happy days. The people on the left, they'll be crying into their soup, Borg, and they won't be able to come back. They tend to be pretty well-off middle-class business, And because of that fact, look what we've got. Read it. Not just the title, the whole book. Have you read it? Good. He's great. And he tends to write things that kind of predict the future a little bit. And as such, you can kind of reference what things he's written in many respects. In many ways, you could look at social life and see something in this. It's essentially a kind of middle class revolution, a radicalization of the upper middle class to the point of militancy. And it's funny. It's been true before, but I see it very, very much in the, the homeopathic, friendly, left-leaning anti-vaxxers. They're going to be so fucked, it's not even true. And they'll be left just to go a bit militant. And I imagine their gatherings will become increasingly emotional affairs as they cry. They won't be able to have any other outlet. They will feel so cut off. They will be so ostracized. It will only be with each other. They can, I don't know what, share some, can socialize. And I think you'll find a sad end. And my friend is right in the fucking middle. With that all said, Borg, and that is a long old go on my daughter's pad. We better cut it off and hope she doesn't fucking watch it.